All right, so we're starting 5.6 on our inverse trig. All right, we've got our 6 trig functions, and they're all going to have inverses. And we're going to talk about some derivatives. Title slides, gotta love them. All right, so we've got our 6 trig functions. They're not going to be one-to-one because they're going to fail the horizontal line test. So in order for them to work, we're going to restrict the domains. So it's not going to be a full cycle or an all reals domain like the normal trig function is. So the arc sign notation is similar to the sign with a superscript -1. Different publishers, different writers use different notation.
She said,
so this is just the picture from the book showing you stuff from pre-calc. Here are the graphs with the limited domains. All right, got our domain and range. We know that our sine inverse is only valid from -pi/2 to pi/2. Our quadrants 4 and 1 from your acronym all students take calculus. And those are all the other graphs. This is still pre-calc material. Coming off, just making sure we know that if we do arc sine, we're looking for a radian answer. Just some practice here. So my sine is valid in quadrant 1 and quadrant 4. So since this is negative, this would be a quadrant 4 answer. All right, in quadrant 1, if it was a half, if this was positive, this would be a positive pi/6. Since it is negative, it'll be a negative pi/6. All right, continuing on, we have the other 3. And saying this is expected to be pre-calc stuff. So in order to deal with your inverse, you should be able to do the composite function of the function and its inverse, and your solution should be an x. And you need to be able to flip the order of that composition and also get an x. All right, we've got to consider our restricted domains on this composition process. All right, so for example, if we took the arc sine, which is the inverse sine of the sine function, people think that they cancel out, leaving us a pi, but pi itself is not in the domain of arc sine. So we'd have to take the 0 value. So I have to say sine of pi is 0. So arc sine of 0 is 0. It is not pi because it's not in the domain. So you got to make sure you're considering your domains. Here is the information box, also from pre-calc, just on these composition of functions. All right, algebraic solving. In order to get the arc tangent off of the argument 2x minus 3, we're going to take the tangent function on both sides. All right, it's going to keep your limited domain for the x minus 3, and you would just solve with a limited domain. All right, that's all the pre-calc stuff. So now we're going to head into derivatives. So we're going to start with a sketch of y equals sine of x. And the green line there is y equals x. That is the reflection line for the function and its inverse. And you can see if we fold it over on this green line, my red and blue are going to match because that's what the inverse function is supposed to do. So I wanted to take my derivative of sine inverse. They're writing it with a superscript now instead of the arc notation, just to balance it out. All right, I would take the sine of both sides to get rid of that sine inverse. And now my sine of y, this would be an implicit differentiation. So we're just writing with the derivative notation. So my derivative of sine is cosine. My derivative of my input, derivative of y, would be dy dx. So now if I wanted to solve for dy dx, I would have this cosine in the denominator. And now we're going to do some side work to get rid of that cosine. Just as we've done before, our input variable is currently an x. We don't want it to be a y now, so we're going to do some manipulation. Here comes our sidebar blue box, going with the Godfather equation. My sine squared plus cosine squared has to equal 1. Solving that for cosine y, because we've got cosine y in our denominator. We get a plus or minus. Based on the restricted domain, we know it's got to be the positive version of that square root. All right, so I can substitute now in, and then this looks like a more complicated substitution. But now by having the sine squared of y, if you go back to the second step here, that is equivalent to x. Now I can get rid of that y input and have an x input. So my derivative of sine inverse of x would be 1 over, let me scooch my screen down here. See if I can get it. Nope, looks like I can't. 1 over 1 minus x squared in the square root. All right, we can do the same thing for the tangent and the secant. You'll get similar results. So these are the three different styles you're going to see. And if we look at the three co-functions, you'll see one at a time here that it's based on a shift. So with that shift, we're going to have this negative in front. Everything else is identical except for this negative sign. So the cosine and the sine are different by this negative sign. So the tangent and the cotangent are also different by a negative sign, and the secant and the cosecant are different by a negative sign. So you just got to memorize the first three and then just take the negative of that same answer. All right, in terms of typing in the calculator, there is no inverse for the secant, cotangent, or cosecant. So you're not going to just do 1 over. It's not that kind of relationship. So you take 1 over the argument. For cotangent, you would just do a shift. And for cosecant, you do 1 over the argument as well. It's worth writing down, keeping for the homework. Otherwise you forget where it is. Put it on a Post-it and keep it with you. All right, going over my derivatives here. My derivative of arc sine would be my 1 over 1 minus x squared. My x is a 2x, so it's a complicated input. So when I chain that, I've got my multiplied 2 on the top. You're more than welcome to clean it up if you want to. My arc tangent would be 1 over 1 plus my x squared. Again, this x is complicated, so when I chain it, I get a 3. And clean it up again. All right, now I've got my sine again with a more complicated input. So I'd have 1 over 1 minus my x squared. But squaring my squared gives it no power. And then my chain rule up top would be my 1/2 x to the negative 1/2. So cleaning up that complex fraction and negative exponent. And a lot of people don't like this root times a root, so they'll multiply through. All right, secant. So secant would have an absolute value on the outside, but e can't be negative, so it'd be redundant. So I'd have my absolute value of my x, and then my x squared minus 1. So when I take the derivative here, the derivative of e to the 2x is e to the 2x, then chain it again, there's my multiplied 2. So that's where the numerator comes from. And then we can clean it up. And we're good. Here's your little asterisk here. That's why there's no absolute value bars. All right, basic rules. This is everything we've done before. We've done polynomials, rationals, and radicals. Those are all considered algebraic functions. We've done transcendentals or extra functions, or logarithmic, exponential, trig, inverse trig. And you should be able to expect those with any sum or difference rules, any product rule, any quotient rule, or any composition of functions, which would be our chain rule. Here's your list of things you know so far. Again, it's copied from the book to see if you see the notation again. Oh, yes, of course, we had more than just 12. And that's it. Thanks.